Welcome to Bond Park. I'm Sarah Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And I'm Aasha Khan, a grade 9 student at Cameron Heights going into the IB program and a young social entrepreneur.
And I'm Hansa Gupta. I'm Asha's proud mom.
Welcome to Bond Park.
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 We've got big news.
Do we ever? We have a brand new website.
And so many amazing things to check out on it.
Bondpark.com.
What can we find there?
You can listen to our episodes right on the site.
You can check out the Bond Park community blog.
You can find out how you can partner with us.
Oh, and the shopping. We have so much fun merchandise.
I'm going to buy myself the I'm the Marshall Ward tote.
Me too.
Bondpark.com. Check us out. So we'll get right into it.
Roll.
All right, Aasha, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to speak with you. We've met before through the KW Bilingual School.
Yes.
But we're here today to talk to you about the work that you're doing. This is all about you. So you introduced yourself as a young social entrepreneur. Wow, those are big words, right? I mean, in the sense that is a huge persona to take on. You know, there's fear in your eyes at the moment. You're like, what do you mean? No, I'm just kidding. This is a huge persona to take on, and you were trying something different. And you're doing this at such a young age as you embark on high school. Tell us about your project.
So it was quite the journey trying to sell this calendar, and it was a lot harder than I had first thought. And I can sum it up for you in a 5-step process. So firstly, this came from a grade 8 project on women's equality that I had started. And in this project, I had made a calendar. It was interactive and involved different components that made up trying to engage and teach others on women's equality. And from this and all the effort I had put into this summer, I decided that I would actually do something with it. So the first step I needed to do was go through and figure out how to actually design it and edit it to make it what I wanted it to be and what the perfect product to show my customers. So I use an app that most young teens are familiar with called Canva, and I have a Canva Pro account, so I have more of their features available to me. And in that, I designed my entire calendar on that platform, and it consists of, it is a desk calendar, and it has the numbers of the month in order and a line drawing at the bottom of a woman, also adorned with other decorative elements. So for the line drawings, the problem that I did run into was I noticed that some of the elements in Canva Pro that they had available to me wasn't as ethnically diverse as I wanted it to be. So what I did, I went ahead and decided to design a few of my own. So I used another app called Procreate, and I hand drew my line drawings digitally of other women to make my calendar more ethnically diverse. And after that, once I had finished with that process, there was the matter of printing. Now, with printing, it costs about $5 if it can fit into the mail slot. It costs $20 if it's a quarter of an inch more. Now, since it's a desk calendar, there is a table holder that comes with it that you slip the calendar card into so it can stand on your desk. Now, because there is this, it is only just a little larger than it needs to be to fit in the mail slot. So the cost of shipping my calendar is more expensive than what my calendar actually costs. So that was one of the biggest problems after designing my calendar that I had run into, was actually figuring out the matters of printing and how to make it so that I can actually sell my calendar. And eventually through a long process, and of course with my mother's help, we had asked around and found that there was this amazing company called Uniquo, and they sell table holders, and they are beautifully designed and completely made from wood. And through these, there was a smaller version that I did find that could potentially fit through the mail slot. And this company, once I had told them about my cause, was gracious enough to give me 50 free table holders.
That's fantastic.
They are such an amazing company, and their products are gorgeous, and I would recommend anyone, if they needed anything from wax stamps to table holders or other cards, to definitely visit their website at unico.com. It is an incredible business run by 2 women, and they support other small businesses run by women as well. And I thought that was just incredible.
So, Aasha, you're talking about a lot of stuff here. You're talking about a design gap where you're seeing that there's no inclusivity. So you're going in there and creating that artwork for your project. And then you're shifting to, okay, now we're talking logistics. Now you need to figure out how to ship your product and how to alter your product so that it can get into the hands of people at a reasonable price.
Yes.
And also how to partner with companies and figure out how to get that word out and build those relationships. This is encompassing a lot in a small amount of time from a grade school project.
Yes, all in beginning in February. And after that, the next step was selling it. So that encompassed talking to a lot of people. And honestly, what I took away from that is if you don't reach out, if you don't put yourself out there, you cannot get where you need to be.
That's right.
So even if I was turned down, or even if some of the sponsors I wanted to didn't work out, I just had to keep trying. And of course, with the support from my mom, it made it all the more easier. And going through the stages, all in hindsight, it was an incredible experience in learning how to talk to people, especially trying to reach out to get help was a vital life skill that I am so grateful to have learned this summer. And then also, I guess with selling, there is also the deal with marketing. And that comes...
Teach me your ways, Aasha. We're working on that for this show.
So there was learning also the age differences, and with that, what apps they use. So with young teens, of course, there's Instagram. That's very popular right now. And then for older up, for more professional products, there's Facebook. And those 2 differences I did have to learn. And I did get Instagram recently for my business. And I do have a business account called girlempower.calendar. So that's my Instagram handle. And so learning that and how to post, how to design, how to import other posts from Canva back into Instagram and edit that was a journey as in and of itself as well. And trying to spread the word. And I found the best way was also word of mouth. And just from Instagram, if you can get one person who knows, they can tell their friends, and then their friends will tell their other friends. And that is the best way to get the word out, I found.
So as a former parent of kids at KW Bilingual School and a volunteer for many, many years, I think about how it actually, something happens quite early on at that school when it comes to these big meaty projects you start working on, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I'm going to ask both you and your mom kind of to shed some light on that there's this tipping point for a lot of students that they start to realize, oh, look at this. These projects aren't just school projects. These are community building projects, right? And they're collaborative and they're problem solving. And can the 2 of you kind of think about where maybe you both saw that in Aasha's education?
I feel like the biggest thing with KWBS is they do focus on presentations and speeches and public speaking a lot more than other schools. And it is a vital skill throughout your entire life to understand and learn how to speak publicly. And without that school, I don't think I would be where I am with public speaking today. And since, I believe, grade 4, we've done speeches every year, going from classes and then the auditorium to in the gym, presenting in front of the whole school. And that writing the speech, practicing it, memorizing it, and presenting it were all challenges that the school, especially the teachers, helped every student learn how to do, how to create, and how to practice. And I feel like in that in of itself, that was the biggest project throughout the school that they worked on to help their students, and one that has most certainly changed me as an individual for the better.
I do remember all of the projects, I think, starting with grade 1, which was the first dolphin project. And I thought it was so interesting that all these students had to do these detailed projects. And honestly, the level of presentation in kids, even at grade 1, was incredible. All of the kids are really invested in learning and helping each other. There's only really been 2 classes for every grade, right? So all of the kids know each other very well and have learned how to work with each other as a team, to support each other, to encourage each other. So that's been very helpful as part of the learning process as well. I think as Aasha, you did your school project on women's empowerment. Part of what also got you looking at the community was just all the encouragement from the other classmates and your teacher, right?
Yes,
Mrs. Gotchmer was great about that. She basically said, Aasha, you should sell this. And so Aasha said, sure, I will. And then my next thought was, oh no, this is going to be our summer.
Mom's got a new hobby.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, who knows, Mom? Maybe this is going to be, the big project that takes off, right?
Just the experience of the summer of having to go and speak to different people has been wonderful, because I don't think that she would have done that otherwise. And one thing that I noticed hearing from other parents is, because of COVID especially, a lot of kids were not so used to talking to different people face to face, right? And so I think just being able to get out there and to speak to somebody in front of you, that was a great experience in and of itself.
Yeah, not only was I always blown away by the effective speaking contests, and not just the delivery of those speeches, but the content,
Yes,
really poignant, important, big things they were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Very current, but also I saw how it worked firsthand with former students like Ellen Brisley and Leah Uman,
Right.
who worked on Technovation, that by the time they're in grade 9 and 10, they're able to approach the media and say, like, in a completely professional way,
Right.
this is something we're working on. Is there someone who would like to cover this?
Right.
And here's what value we can offer to you.
Yeah, and it's just, I didn't learn that till after university.
I think it's the skills are there, definitely. You're taught the skills and how to talk to people. The other part of it is just because of all the support, there's the motivation and just the trust in yourself that you can do this, right? Because you've got such great support and encouragement from teachers and peers. There was no question when Aasha wanted to go out and do this that could she do this? It was just, we're going to do it. That's what it was.
When and how.
Exactly. and that's invaluable. And that's what we gain from the school.
And Aasha, I would say that one of Mrs. Scotchmer's greatest strengths is the fact that so much of her approach to education has to do with really real critical thinking, like looking at, well, whose voices aren't being heard here?
Yes, yeah.
And let's make sure that whatever, we're starting to work on here, that we've considered everything, right?
Right.
Yeah.
She definitely challenged their thinking.
Yes.
And I understand it's a very safe space too.
It is.
Yes.
It is. I think, and maybe we were just lucky with the cohort that we had, because that's the thing, is that it depends probably what cohort you end up with, right? We just happened to have a really good cohort of kids who were all academically inclined and wanted to do well, but not in a mean competitive way. They all just wanted to support each other and learn. So that's also probably a blessing for a teacher, right? To be able to have a cohort like that.
And I know for Mrs. Scotchmer too, because it's a smaller class size, it's easier for the teachers to individually understand their students, what makes them anxious, what they can improve on and work on, and what are their greatest strengths. And what Ms. Scotchmer does is, and the other teachers too at the school most certainly, is that they help bring out the best in the students and also have them help and are there to help the students overcome what's preventing them from advancing further. And they will help you as well as push you a little bit, of course, but they are there with you every step of the way. And that support that I receive from the school is invaluable compared to anything that can prepare me in life.
One thing I really noticed, I was fortunate enough to film and do some photography for Operetta this year with Mr. O. Yeah. And when you talked about having it being a safe space for the students, I have never seen a group of children that confidently get up on stage and perform and sing that weren't part of a specific club for that purpose. This was every child in that grade 8 class was going to do this. Was it grade 7 and 8? I think grade 7 and 8 performs in operetta. Is that right?
Both grade 7 and 8, it was split into 4 operettas, and for the operetta I did participate in, it was Heidi and Ashish who played the main roles, and it was called Book Lovers. And that operetta really just brought us as a class closer together after COVID, just seeing each other for so long and just participating and creating something together.
I saw your performance. You were fabulous. Everyone did such a great job. I was very moved. I even said to Mr. O, I was like, wow, I can't believe that all of these children are here and just sharing so fully and trying something new like this.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, they're all just actually really into it.
I think you hit on it. It's the confidence. Like they really help build confidence at that school. And that's what we truly appreciate having in our kids, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's everything.
Yeah.
And through Sarah's work at the school as a digital media director, she has also seen what someone like Madame El-Kibi can bring to science and math in terms of a very, very high level of enthusiasm and support, basically saying everybody can do this.
Yeah.
And understanding it can be intimidating and overwhelming at first.
Yes.
She said something very beautiful to us about math, right?
Yeah.
Everyone can learn math.
Yeah.
You just have to find the right way to make it make sense for you. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what she told us.
Yeah, that's exactly what she said. Yeah. And she and you just have to walk by her classroom to see the level of energy and love coming out of her for it. You know? It's like that combination of, like you said, just a great supportive group of students around you would have all, and family.
I think without Madame El-Kibi, I would have actually not gotten into math or science, which I absolutely adore now. And with her support, it took a while, but she was there with me and she helped me. She sat down with me and helped me understand terms or formulas that I wasn't quite getting. And she was so patient with me. And when I couldn't get something or when I was anxious mostly. And she just makes the classroom so vibrant, so fun to walk into every day. And when I see her, I can't help but smile.
I think it was amazing because Ash came home one day and she's like, oh, I want to do a math contest. And I looked at her and I said, Ash, you don't like math. Which is a horrible thing for a parent to tell a child.
But you were taken aback.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
And she's like, no, Madame El-Kibi said I could do it. And I was like, okay, sure. And so I think you did a number of contests that last year.
I think
really it was because of Madame El-Kibi that you did them.
With her encouragement especially.
Yeah.
We're going to take a moment to hear from this episode's sponsor.
Ever wondered what happens inside a black hole?
Or what quantum mechanics tells us about reality?
Curious about how the universe began or how it will end?
Feed your curiosity with Conversations at the Perimeter, a science podcast from Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics.
On each episode, we chat with a different scientist about the grandest questions in the universe, from the quantum to the cosmos.
Geek out to Conversations at the Perimeter, wherever you get your podcasts.
And now back to the show.
Do you have some visuals to share with us?
Back to the calendar.
Oh,
Let's
right
talk
on.
about you have some
yes.
visuals. Yeah.
Here's the desk, the holder.
Sleek, beautiful wooden desk holder here.
And how it works is it fits one card at a time. So here's the front, and then you just slide it into the slit of the table holder. And then depending on the month, you can switch it out into each of the designs that I have provided.
And these are your drawings.
Yes. So,
Okay, so please pass them down. I want to see some stuff here. Please continue.
So what some of the elements were provided to me in Canva Pro, such as some of the line drawings here were already pre-made there. However, there was a whole process involved of me incorporating other elements from Canva Pro and redesigning it, grouping it, editing it to actually make it my own in my own design. And then others a few others in the calendar, I did actually hand draw myself, and then I had to import back into Canva.
So unfortunately, we don't have the ones she hand drew today. The only reason being is that for some reason, when she was importing from Canva to send it to the printery,
I know Canva.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah.
I understand.
So
I understand
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Canva.
there was so much back and forth
Yeah.
trying to get the layers, and for some reason, it was only the ones that she drew in Procreate. Whatever it is, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I don't understand IT the best. But
but like I am a Procreate geek and a Canva geek and
Yeah.
a Photoshop. Like I understand
Yeah.
what we're talking
Yeah,
about here.
GIMP was involved.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I completely understand, and that's hard sometimes, especially if your program gets an upgrade or if there's like an export issue. Sometimes things just don't work for no reason, as we witnessed today. Right? These things happen, but I love. This is what I love. You saw the gap in inclusivity, so you came up with your own designs. Now, okay, I can't create this in Canva, so I'm going to go outside to Procreate and give this a try and then put these together. To me, that is the whole solution to computers and software. Oh, this one doesn't do it? Wonder if this one would. And then you can try and make them talk to each other. And I love that. There's so much beauty in that to me.
Yeah, especially when you can have other elements that allow you with technology now that you can go between different platforms and import those. And I find that so useful because when one isn't working, it's not like your whole product has just collapsed. You can always go to a different resource to actually help you out. And with technology, I cannot be more grateful for that.
See, and that's the part about being young that I love, because when you get older, you just get tired of having to try to figure out another platform. But when you're young, it's just a whole new adventure.
There's something so beautiful about Procreate and Adobe's Fresco. I don't know if you've used Fresco.
Oh, I have seen it. I just have not used it yet.
Well, I assume you're going to get into a lot more design as you move forward. But just the way that pencil, that digital pencil behaves as though it's pencil on paper or as though it's paint on canvas, or, you know, the way that you can add layers and add thickness to things.
Yeah.
It's quite powerful, I think.
Yeah, and especially when you don't have to go back with a plain eraser and accidentally erase the whole thing. There's always undo.
There's always undo.
Or there's different layers that you can add to give different textures, or even if you want to, let's say, splatter paint between in person and online, it's already done for you. You have that brush available to you. And that's, I find how we've advanced in terms of technology and media design incredible.
When we interviewed Ellen and Leah for our Technovation episode, what I was so impressed with was the fact that they had already learned a lesson that it took me a long time to learn in my adult life, which was if they were going to approach a retirement home and long-term care facility, they learned quickly that you can try sending an email to info@, right? Like you can try that, but
The group laughs.
chances aren't great, right?
Yeah.
So they figured out, we know somebody who knows somebody, right?
Yes.
We need to talk to a person, right, and get behind it. In our own experience, Google Canada sponsored our episode on Technovation, and again, it took me talking to a fellow parent at KW Bilingual School who works at Google, who found the right person for us to talk to, and then that person explained to us that if Google is going to sponsor you, your project needs to align with their vision and their values, right?
Right.
And those things. But these things can take time and a lot of effort and energy. And it sounds like you as well, like Ellen and Leah, have already begun that learning process, that you have to find creative ways to have these conversations and make connections, right?
Yes, of course. And what was a little strange to me, which in hindsight shouldn't be now, was that talking to big corporations, I found you couldn't actually talk to a real person. And it was always some other line or some other robot or a different customer service to go to, but it was never actually a real person that you could speak to. And I struggled a lot trying to figure out who to contact with, especially with big e-commerce platform corporations, and trying to figure out if there was a problem, if something wasn't working with my account. There wasn't help available to me to actually go, or someone to go and talk to. And
So surprisingly, I think you found that talking to smaller businesses and organizations actually worked out better, right? So when you
Yes.
needed to find a printery, you found Janet Hill in Stratford, who was able to recommend one to you. Or when you needed help with calendar designs, you found Lisa, I think, right?
At Bloomfleet Papari, yes.
Right. Yeah. So, and then you went out when you needed help. You went to the Waterloo Regional Small Business, right? I think, and you talked to Nadia.
Nadia Benton, yes.
Yeah. So I think that was one thing that you discovered, is that it was a lot easier if you could find a person to work with. And the good thing is you were still willing to go out and do that, you know. So when said e-commerce platform, you couldn't get a hold of them or get the help that you needed, you just had to find another way around it. And speaking to somebody was always more helpful.
You're making me laugh. I'm picturing my 16-year-old self with my resume going into a store. And are you taking resumes? And you throw it on the desk.
Right.
And the person behind the counter goes, oh. And then you get out of there fast.
Right.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar.
No.
It isn't. It
No.
isn't. Yeah.
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 There's some themes there.
Yeah. So, and it was especially harder because Aasha's still a minor, right? So
Yeah.
for example, signing up with e-commerce platforms, she couldn't. So PayPal and credit cards, for example, you need to have an adult. We struggled with that. We still haven't quite decided yet whether it would be me signing onto it, because that would be the only way she could accept payments through credit cards and other payment platforms. Otherwise, the only option she has is really cash and e-transfer.
But you want to be wider. You want to be able to
Exactly.
ship wherever.
Yeah.
If you get that one New Zealand order, you know, you might not be supplying them all the time,
Right.
but you know, I'll take the hit on that shipping so that they
Right.
can have my calendar and spread the love, right? Yeah.
And surprisingly, it's cheaper to ship outside
Internationally,
of Canada
which
than
is-
it is in Canada.
Same with flying, isn't it?
Yeah, and it just makes you realize how much small businesses in Canada struggle to actually run their business just because shipping now is so expensive.
What courses are you looking at for high school? Like, as you think about the years ahead, these are amazing courses that are available to you now that weren't available to me. I'm talking about hybrid courses, you know, that blend sociology and philosophy and psychology, and they're dealing with big world problems, right?
Right now, the electives I'm taking, one of them includes Intro to Business, which actually is amazing because now I have my own business experience to share in that course. And since I'm just new to Cameron, there is still a lot to figure out, but going through all their clubs that they're setting up, I am very excited to see what they can offer.
I think we had tried contacting Junior Achievement as well, because we figured
Yes.
if we were going to get advice from somebody that could help a minor, that would be the organization to go to. And we're looking forward to it, but it's more for groups and through schools. And so it was really interesting because when we talked to one of their financial officers, they said, you know what, we have more and more kids that are wanting to start their own business. And I remember looking through this post because I was trying to figure out the payment platform deal. And this one person had started writing about kids wanting to start their own business. And there were hundreds of posts from kids saying, we want to do this. Can you please tell us how? Like, what options are open to us because we're minors? So I'm really hoping that at some point JA will look at helping kids individually as well, because the motivation is there. And sometimes the motivation to do it through school is not as great as just doing it yourself, sort of organically getting into it. But there's definitely a lot of interest from kids to starting their own businesses now.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
That makes my heart so happy.
And did Aasha have lots of hobbies growing up and certain interests that kind of, you can see how almost like putting a puzzle together, like the one we have in front of us.
Right.
It's like you can kind of in hindsight see how all the pieces kind of beautifully come together at some point.
She loves reading, which absolutely loves reading. She does piano as well and dance. But the one thing I loved about Ash is that she could just, be in a space for a while, go out for a walk and look at the clouds. It's been one of her favorite things. Just look at the clouds and just dream and think. And I think that creativity that you foster with having just that bit of space without having it to be an activity that you've signed up for was great. So as much as we did do some activities outside of school, she just liked having some creative space. The other thing is that, to be honest, KW Bilingual is very busy. So academically, there is a lot of your time taken up in homework and doing projects. But every project was also an opportunity for her to discover what she could do, be it a new platform like Canva, or be it some new type of presentation platform, or practicing speaking skills, or just researching different ideas, reading things. Like the opportunities kids have nowadays for looking information up, albeit they need to do their fact checking. But to do that is incredible. So, when Ash started looking up women's empowerment, there were so many things that she discovered, which is interesting because as a 13-year-old, she doesn't yet see the difference, right, between being male and female and the opportunities that a woman could miss out on. At this stage, the only difference I think you might have noticed is in sports. I remember you saying that there was a little bit. But that was about it.
Yeah. And because I am so grateful to live a privileged life where I don't have to see that. And I know it's out there in the world. And seeing as all girls don't get the same opportunities as others do, I want to make some difference.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing, is finding out that opportunities for education, for careers, wasn't necessarily the same in other countries as you have here. It's very easy to just see the world where you are as the world, and not to recognize that there are other parts of the world that are very different. I think the other thing that you realize is that you thought, oh, well, maybe it's just in other parts of the world where there's differences between genders in terms of opportunities, right? More traditional types of social structures. But then you started realizing that there are actually differences here too, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you started looking at where the differences were. It was more in terms of leadership positions, I think, right?
Right, and especially being a female CEO, an interesting fact is there are more CEOs called Michael than there are female CEOs in Canada.
That is a wonderfully interesting fact.
I mean, or Michael's a really lucky name.
Or Michael's a really lucky name. I'm looking at your Instagram now for girlempower.calendar, and I can see you've done a time lapse of one of the drawings that you've created. It's absolutely beautiful. Marshall, I can show you that as well, which is really cool. So it's moving, and we can see that. You've got information about your company. You've got quotes from famous women. There's a great one from Kamala Harris in here that's like...
about shattering the glass ceiling. Yeah.
I'm going to pull it up.
I've seen those contour line drawings at KWBS.
Yeah.
I often see them usually in Mrs. Scotchmer's classroom, and they're done like a self-portrait, and there's sometimes text involved. But I'm wondering, does that start in Ms. DeFair's grade 6 art class?
So with Ms. DeFair, I've always loved that she challenges you with different types of art forms, and another pastime that I love is sketching and drawing, and I've always loved art since I was a child. And with her, I think that's where her projects and what she assigns you, it steps you out of your comfort zone, but she's there to help you and to guide you, and you're never alone in that process. And when you need help figuring out, is the value in this the same, or did I get the perspective of this right, she's there to teach you and to help you to understand. And I know the biggest thing for me there in her classroom was that for the projects that she assigned, I would have actually never done those had she not assigned those to me. I would have, for example, there was an oil pastel assignment that I did in grade 8, and looking back, I would have never opened a set of oil pastels. And it turned out, the concept that I made turned out to be beautiful. And when I looked back on it, I never knew I could actually create it because I had never tried. So I thank her so much for actually pushing me to put myself out there and to start trying.
I've never spent any time in her actual classroom, but to get to know her, I imagine she's very unassuming, you know what I mean? Not like, and also just incredibly kind and gentle as a teacher, right?
Yes, she is. And she's always there for when you need her to be. She'll help you out in any way she can. And it's always fun because we love joking around with her in the classroom. But she can always help us to get us back on track. And she helps us understand art in different ways that we haven't thought before. And opening my eyes to that perspective, it has been, and especially with the other students, she's always been encouraging. And even if you don't get something perfectly right, she helps you to see the beauty and your own faults. And if you make a mistake, she can help you turn it into something beautiful.
That quote we were looking for before is, ladies, make sure to wear shoes. There's glass everywhere.
Right.
Yes.
I really love so much.
Now that I think about it, I think that's what got you thinking about women's empowerment was when because I remember you saying that, right? When Kamala Harris was elected as vice president, that's when you started wondering about it.
Yes, so about a year ago when Kamala Harris was elected vice president, I thought it was incredible, but I didn't realize, to me, it didn't seem as much of a difference because a woman was being elected. It didn't even cross my mind because to me, it just felt like a person. That difference between gender equality wasn't there. And it was so strange looking around me when I found everyone celebrating and congratulating this huge movement in terms of the history of gender equality. And when I took a step back and looked at it, I realized how far we've come since 100 years ago and how far we still have to go. How we now have a female vice president, and we are still working our way towards having a female president.
Bond Park is made possible with the support of the Kitchener Public Library and the Kitchener-Waterloo Community Foundation.
Our show is produced by Sarah Geidlinger
And Marshall Ward.
with audio engineering by Sarah Geidlinger.
Bond Park's original music is by Alan Lung. Harry, you still with us? We want to tell you about a fun project that we have. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We have another podcast called An Unscripted Spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. Here's Colin Hunter of Kayfabe News to tell you all about it.
Welcome to An Unscripted Spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. I'm Colin Hunter from Kayfabe News. Marshall is utterly obsessed with professional wrestling. Sarah is utterly perplexed by professional wrestling. On each episode of An Unscripted Spectacle, Marshall and Sarah talk with a different guest from the world of wrestling. Promoters, referees, journalists, and current and past stars of the Squared Circle to talk deeply about the strange magic of professional wrestling that has enchanted Marshall his whole life. Can they turn Sarah into a fellow connoisseur of professional wrestling? She'll need some convincing.
I find out who Jimmy Corderas is. Who the heck are you?
Oh, well, that's a good question. For those who don't know, I spent the better part of over 2 decades working in WWF/WWE, mostly as a referee inside the ring.
I have the honor of meeting the magnificent LuFisto.
I heard that you were described as the first lady of hardcore. I've just recently found out what hardcore is.
Yeah, thanks to Madman Pondo.
When I've learned that I was going to be inducted, it was like, it is now my time to tell the story of women's wrestling. Because so many times I've heard, oh, this is the first time this happens in women's wrestling history. And I'm like, no.
I learned all about the storytelling and writing process from Tom Casiello.
Yeah, I was in soap operas for 14 years. I was in Young and the Restless last. That was from 2009 to 2011. And so I thought, I'll go in for the interview. I'll be honest with them. If I blow it, I blow it. Not the end of the world. And I was there for 6 years. And I rose up the ranks to managing lead writer. And it was the most insane time period of my entire life.
I got a new skincare regime from RJ City.
Checking out your hair, and I wish that mine looked like yours. You have beautiful locks.
Thank you. The secret, this isn't a plug, it feels like an endorsement, is aloe vera. I have it here. I put it on my skin. I put it in my hair. I use the gel. I put a couple drops of peppermint in.
I have a plant right there on my
Good.
fridge.
Cut it open, squeeze it out, and put it Honestly, wherever you want. It's good for you.
I find out that Colt Cabana is just famous enough that he can still buy groceries. And Tyson Kidd tells me all about the People's Elbow. Who knew?
Basically comes to a complete stop, then brings his leg over the guy like he's going to do a leg drop. But the leg like keeps circling past the guy, and then he drops an elbow on the guy.
Oh, and the elbow represents like all the people of the fans? Like he's been voted, he's going to drop this elbow?
Well, he started calling himself the People's Champion, and then that move just became the People's Elbow.
And then there's also, as you know, there's the People's Strudel.
Yeah. I mean, there's the People's Eyebrow. There's a lot of the people. Got a lot of people.
So check out an unscripted spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. Available anywhere you get your podcasts.